Isn't it crazy how Voldemort didn't even end up being the biggest villain of the Harry Potter series? Thanks a lot, Joanne. It's day 124 out of 365. Today's movie, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I don't have a school of wizardry for you to join, but I do have a movie club. Apparate over to patreon.com/ticketstub movie club to discover more. Directed by David Yates and starring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, this is a weird series for me to talk about. This is the only one of the franchise that I saw in theaters, and it was on a date with someone I was hooking up with. This was not my bag at the time. I actually didn't even read the books until I was 24, and I was only reading the books so I could go back and rewatch the movies to catch myself up to this movie. Seeing it in this ass backwards order is not the worst way to see it either. I was raised homeschooled, so I wasn't allowed to read the books growing up, so I was not an overall fan of the franchise. And even with all of that delay getting into the series, it would still be years until we'd find out that J.K. Rowling was a transphobic piece of shit. So this is just a weird one overall, like I said. It's strange that this act of rebellion of going to read these books in this series to rebel against my childhood ended up eventually making my parents correct about not letting me read it, but not for the reasons they thought it was bad. I hadn't touched this series since 2015, so just as an experiment, I went back and I rewatched the trailer for the very first movie against the trailer for this one, Deathly Hallows Part 2, and the tone difference between the two of them is so distinctly wild and different. It's crazy to see the way this evolved over the years. It's so wild, it'll just make your head spin. So instead of talking about this movie in reference to the books or in reference to the other movies, I'm going to talk about this one as much on its own legs as its own movie as I can, even though it is a part 2. With that stipulation out of the way, let's talk about the 3 things that I liked about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. The first thing that I dug about this movie was the fact that Voldemort really feels like a villainous presence in this movie. Ralph Fiennes is a fantastic actor. What a grab for this franchise. And he's done great jobs with these movies in the past, but this is the Voldemort movie. So much so that so many of the effects in the movie represent his face. When Nagini is destroyed and the magic is escaping, you can see Voldemort's face in it. You can see his face in the flames in the upstairs room during the fire sequence. Voldemort is painted all over this movie, and then the character itself is portrayed so vividly and well. It's a mix of practical and CGI, which is just beautiful to behold. Honestly, this is one of the best on-screen villains that we've seen, I think, since Darth Vader. I know that's a big statement to make, but these large, long-running franchises normally need just a really strong villain, and they have one here. That's a real accomplishment, I think, too, to take something that is so beloved and has been running for so long and still be able to deliver on the villain of the series just works so incredibly well. Every representation of him is meaningful and significant and memorable. Think about the little fetal Voldemort that's in Harry's vision of the train station in the middle of the movie. Even that Voldemort is just impressed in our brains so strong. Every version of him that we see is excellent. Also, just as a side note, there would be a very funny edit to be made of Thanos snapping and people starting to dust and then cutting Voldemort into this, just because that's the visual effect they used to get rid of him at the end of the movie, which again, really, really works for it. We hadn't seen it before. We don't know what Endgame is at this point. The second thing that I really dug about this movie is a way that it's a tour back through locations that we've learned to love, especially from the very first movie. The finale of your series has a lot riding on it to make it work, and one of the things riding on anything like this is nostalgia. Think about Endgame and the way that it is a tour back through all the different things that we had seen up to that point, all of the different movies leading up to it. This movie's doing the same thing. The halls of Hogwarts, the boat dock he would have arrived at the first time that he came to Hogwarts. The train makes an appearance at the very end, cap-ending his journey when he first left to go to Hogwarts. Every major location that we've learned to love over the years is brought back and then destroyed in front of our eyes. That is such a painful way to do this kind of tour, but it really, really works. It really makes us think about how far he's come, not only as a character, but this as a franchise of movies. The fact that they were able to get to this point and pull it off the whole way is almost proof that the MCU was going to work long before the MCU had completed. It's actually funny that this series ends the year before Avengers, that first proof of concept that they could pull a bunch of different movies together into a franchise like Harry Potter. Harry Potter is the first long-running giant blockbuster. Every single movie goes to the theaters and everyone goes out to see them kinds of things. This was a huge moment. The books were like that too. I remember that growing up, but I promised I wouldn't compare the two, so I'll stop here. The third and final thing that I really dig about this movie is John Williams' original score. Now, this series has passed through a lot of directors and 3 other composers before we get to this final movie. There's a lot of original score to be had that is excellent, but all of John Williams' themes and motifs are brought back in full in this last movie, and I really love that. It's hard to talk about John Williams and not also talk about Harry Potter. Of course, his Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Superman's are in your top 3 if you're building a Mount Rushmore. His work on Harry Potter has to be the last one, I feel. It is so iconic. It is so offbeat and interesting. If you're into music at all, you understand that this is not a very major key poppy sounding score. It's odd. It's intrinsically weird in its notation. And that's him playing around with the oddity of a wizarding world. Like, he brings so much life and feeling and texture to the entire series that you can feel it all the way to this last movie. I just always have to sing John Williams' praise, and when there's an opportunity to bring it up, I'm going to do it, because this is the only Harry Potter movie that I went to see in theaters. But what do you think? Are you a fan of Deathly Hallows Part 2? Was this series a fun time for you overall, or did the creator kind of soil the whole thing for you? We're going to leave big franchises for a minute and talk about a comedy that I really dug from 2011. Our next movie is Horrible Bosses, and I will see you tomorrow.